Hello, good morning, good afternoon, as maybe, or even good evening. Uh, Greetings from Amsterdam, and welcome to this webinar for the open call for proposals of the Common Fund for Commodities. My name is Andrei Kuleshov. I'm Chief of Strategy of the CFC. I'm here with my colleagues, Mr. Chris Rallis, who is an investment manager at the CFC, and Mr. Matthias Kollmann, who is the Impact Strategy Officer of the CFC. So together, we'll take you through the call for proposals in the coming hour. We will try to leave some space towards the end to ask any questions. I hope we will be able to do that. I'm sure everybody is familiar by now with the Zoom platform, with the telecommunications, but a few technical notes still. If you lose the connection, if the connection is interrupted for any reason, please just reconnect with the same credentials and we will continue where the interruption happened. Also, you kindly requested to keep your microphones muted at all times so we can keep the level of noise in the virtual meeting room to the minimum. It is convenient to answer questions in the chat box, so please do monitor the chat functions on the platform and do not hesitate to ask questions in the chat box. We will continuously monitor the chat box and we'll also try to answer questions there. So without any more delays, let's get started. And first, I would like to say a few words about the Common Fund for Commodities, which may or may not be so known to you. We'll discuss the focus of the CFC, will discuss the operation of the open call for proposals, and eventually we will go through the application form of the CFC. Now, the Common Fund is an intergovernmental organization. It is established by the member countries under the aegis of the United Nations. The operations of the CFC started in 1989. And currently, the CFC has 101 member countries, also a number of international organizations as institutional members. Since its operationalization, the CFC accumulated over 34 years of experience in providing financing for commodity value chain in the global commodity sector. We have done over 500 projects with the total value exceeding $800 million. Since 2014, the CFC is operating as Impact Investment Fund. That means that we expect to place our money in projects which are financially sound and at the same time which deliver a tangible impact on the population who depends on commodities for a significant part of their livelihoods. Since that time, the CFC invested over $52 million in over 50 loan projects, and activities of the CFC span as many as 99 countries. Now, the CFC is headquartered in Amsterdam. We only have one office, and that is our headquarters office in Amsterdam. We are a fairly small organization, but we are trying to reach as far and as wide as we can, therefore the open call for proposals. A few words about the mission of the CFC. It is understood that commodities are an essential element for the livelihoods of billions of people worldwide. And the best estimates that we have, they exceed 2 billion people worldwide who depend for essential parts of their livelihoods on production and trades of primary commodities. Also, dependence on commodities is typically associated very closely with poverty and vulnerability. Therefore, we believe at the CFC that by targeting the commodity value chains, by targeting the basis of the pyramid of the commodity value chains, we are targeting our interventions at the most poor and the most vulnerable people in the developing countries. And the CFC investments look to transform commodity value chains towards greater equity and sustainability. This is now the founding mission of the CFC, also enshrined in the agreement establishing the CFC, and the basis of agreement of the countries members of the CFC from its establishment. So the CFC sees its mission to eliminate poverty associated with commodity dependence. And our vision is that we can achieve this goal by investing appropriately in the commodity value chains at the base of the pyramid. And I will move to the next slide here, which is, I think, the essential summary of the type of investments that the CFC aims to do in its current shape. Now, at the center of the diagram, and I'm not sure if you can see I think everybody should be seeing my pointer. At the center of the diagram, you have the small and medium enterprises. So the focus of CFC investments is on the small and medium enterprises, which on the one side work with the smallholder farmers who produce and trade commodities for their essential livelihood. And on the upper side of the diagram, on the downstream market side of the small and medium enterprises, you have high value international markets. So the general picture of the impact model of the CFC is that we invest in small and medium enterprises who connect primary producers of commodities, being the smallholder farmers or any poor and vulnerable people dependent on commodities, connected to the markets where their produce can fetch a fair value to be delivered back to the primary producer. This is the most general picture of the operational model. This way, it is not the money, it is not the amount of money that the CFC invests that makes the difference in terms of the impact, but it is the value created by the primary producers in the international markets that creates the value for the whole commodity value chain, and that in the end creates the impact in terms of sustainable development and poverty alleviation. So this is the philosophy of the CFC. In all projects that we finance, we look to see the confirmation of this model. The CFC can invest at the level of small and medium enterprises virtually in anything. You see at the base there buying logistics input, so we can support small and medium enterprises in organizing purchases from smallholder farmers, providing some pre-financing so that smallholder farmers can be paid quickly, and so on. Also organizing logistics, trucks, distribution centers, processing centers for the primary produce collected from the farmers, and so on. We have a whole range of projects where you can look for examples on our website. At the small and medium enterprise itself, we can invest in the production process. So it's processing, it's storage, it's quality improvement. It could be certification, it could be some kind of innovative processing, maybe making new products. We have projects that make new products from the basic commodities, all aiming to fill certain niches in the premium markets that can deliver value that the small and medium enterprise can return back to the primary producer. And on the marketing side, we can invest in marketing, distribution, sales, again, certification, traceability of the produce, anything that we could do to fetch higher value in the international markets. So This is the target that we're trying to achieve. And we are achieving this by deploying the financing instruments of the CFC. So the main thing that the CFC does is offer financial instruments to meet those needs of the small and medium enterprises. And those instruments, they are pretty regular, pretty normal and standard. We can offer trade finance to the small and medium enterprises. We can offer capital expenditure loans. We can offer working capital. And we can offer quasi-equity instruments and other innovative financial instruments, such as development impact bonds, where the CFC was the pioneer in applying the concept in the commodity sector. So if we understand the needs of the small and medium enterprise, the CFC can usefully and productively discuss and work with you how to structure the financial instruments that could serve the needs in the most effective way. So we may be coming back to this diagram just to refresh it when we need. But in the meantime, I would like to move on to describing the call for proposals. Now, this has been introduced in 2014, and open call means open. Any organization can apply, any agency, any person can apply by filling the application forms contained on the CFC website. Preempting the question that may come up, can this organization apply? Can that organization apply? Can a department of the government apply in the open call? I would say that it only makes sense to apply in the open call if the organization that submits the application has the legal personality to be able to sign an agreement with the CFC under the law of its own country. If you cannot sign an agreement with the CFC will not be able to disburse the money. Therefore, the application will not be effective. So, and any organization can apply, provided that they will be able to sign a loan agreement with the CFC if the proposal is approved by the CFC Executive Board. Now, a few words about the typical proposals that we are looking at. We look primarily at the agricultural commodity sector, those small and medium enterprises. It's just statistics. It's just that almost all the applications that come to the CFC, they concern small and medium enterprises in the agricultural commodity sector. We do look for any kind of innovation. We look for things that have not been tested before, or maybe tried and tested models applied in a new place or applied in a new manner. Any kind of innovation is most welcome and a big help in us considering project proposals. A few are listed on the screen, and that includes agroforestry, climate smart agriculture, renewable energy proposals for the commodity value chains. Food security has always been on the agenda. Preventing deforestation has come on the agenda very significantly in recent years. Digitalization of commodity value chains still remains to be explored. Financial exclusion instruments, microfinance, and many more. We do ask, as I already mentioned, for all proposals to be financially viable. The application form contains financial projection models, which needs to demonstrate to us that the proposal will be able to generate sufficient income to be able to recover financing provided by the CFC. Also, we require environmental and social sustainability. We will touch on this a bit more further in the presentation. Now I'm coming to the application process. What happens once you submit the application form? First, we have this small secretariat that's about 20 people in Amsterdam. When you submit an application, and we receive, in the most recent round, we received over 300 applications. please rest assured that somebody will read your application. One of the investment managers will read your application and complete the internal screening checklist, verifying and confirming that the proposal meets all the basic qualification criteria for CFC financing. Once the basic criteria are satisfied, the proposal has been reviewed internally by the Secretariat. It will be evaluated by the Consultative Committee of the CFC. And if the Consultative Committee agrees that the proposal is worthy of further consideration, then we will come back to the proponents to develop the key terms and conditions that we will present to the Executive Board for final decision regarding CFC support for the proposal. We do 2 rounds of the call for proposal per year. That's linked to our Executive Board and Consultative Committee meetings. So I will show the calendar a bit later. There's approximately 6-month lead time for us to consider the proposal. And during the whole process, we may reach out to you. We are real people. We are operating on real email addresses. So we expect to have direct contact with you if we need some supplementary information regarding your proposals. The board then, if the Executive Board decides to approve the project proposal, that's authorization for the CFC to fulfill the terms stipulated by the board and to sign an agreement. On the basis of the agreement, the CFC will then make financing available. So the board decides on the basis of information submitted in the application form. So we will only do detailed investigation and on-site due diligence once the Executive Board approval has been received by us. So upon Executive Board approval, we go with detailed due diligence. We verify that the conditions specified by the Executive Board can in fact be satisfied by the proponents. We conclude and negotiate the legal documentation, and we sign the agreement. So this whole process we expect to be completed in less than 12 months. Some conditions are difficult, like providing the necessary guarantees, for example. We expect this to be concluded within 12 months. If we cannot sign an agreement within 2 years after the Executive Board approval, we reserve the right to withdraw our commitments to support the project if there's no progress being made with the conclusion of the legal documentation and meeting the conditions imposed by the Executive Board. This is done for the sake of making the money available from the projects which do not make progress to the projects that can make progress. So we do not want the money of the CFC to sit idly waiting for the legal documentation to be concluded. So I promised to look at the calendar for the current call for proposals. So currently we are already in 27th call for proposals by the CFC that started in April, and we will be collecting applications by 29 September. So all applications received by the CFC by 29th September will be reviewed in this call for proposals. Anything that we receive after that will have to be considered in the next round, in the next call for proposals. After 29 December, in October and November, mostly really, we will do the screening of the application. So we will be reading the application forms. We will be verifying the essential conditions for CFC financing. And by 22nd December, we will be submitting the documentation to the Consultative Committee. The Consultative Committee, by the way, I did not mention it before, consists of 9 independent experts in the commodity sector elected by the Executive Board and acting in their own personal professional expert capacity. So the Consultative Committee members have a wide knowledge and wide expertise in the commodity sector. So if you, even when you're submitting a proposal for some exotic or unusual commodity, you can expect that there will be somebody on the consultative committee who is familiar with this commodity as a sector specialist, and they will assess the technical merits of the proposal based on their knowledge and expertise. For this purpose, uh, in December, we must send them the documentation. And last week of January, the consultative committee will meet in Amsterdam or virtually by teleconference to discuss their views on the batch of the project proposals, meeting the basic qualification criteria that have been received in the 27th call for proposals. That's January 2026. After that, it will be clear if the proposal is recommended for further consideration or not. And between February and March, we will be contacting successful applicants for any supplementary information in preparation of the terms and conditions for the executive board. The executive board meets in April 2026, first week or second week of April 2026, when the decision will be made, and we will notify successful successful applicants shortly after the executive board in the first or second week of April. So this is the calendar, and I will now hand over the microphone to my colleague, Mr. Chris Rallis, to take you through the application form. Chris,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Thank you very much, Andre. Good morning or good evening, everyone. From my side, welcome to this webinar, and thank you very much for your interest on our call for proposals. What I will do for you today is that I will walk you through the CFC application forms and share with you some tips and information on how to write an effective, concise, and why not a successful funding proposal for the CFC. Now, before I start, two advices from experience. Number one, less is more. So when you start writing your application form, try to keep it short and concise and always within the 20-page limit. This reduces the burden both for you, but also for us that we have to review all the applications. Uh, Also remember that in case we need any type of information, any further information, we will reach out to you directly. Now, let's go to the next slide and we start with the application form. The first section, yeah, that's not necessary. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, perfect, that one. So the first section of the application form is called organization background. And in the first chapter of this section, what we would like simply you to do is write down the name of the organization that you're representing, the legal type of the organization, who are the founders of the organization, and when and where this organization was incorporated or registered. For example, the CFC is an intergovernmental financial institution based in Amsterdam, and it was founded in 1989. Simple as that, nothing more, nothing less. In section 1.2, location and target markets, what you have to write is basically the country or countries where your organization is operating in, plus which countries are your target market. Now, for this one, it's very important for us because this is the way we check if you are eligible for CFC financing. Uh, Please remember that to be eligible for CFC financing, you have to either be based in a CFC member country or you have operations in CFC member countries. The list of all 101 member countries is in our website. You can check there if your country is a member. And I think this is straightforward. But you would ask what happens with companies that are based in non CFC member countries. Could they be eligible? yes, there are cases where they are eligible. For example, let's say you are a US based company, a coffee company that sources coffee from Ethiopia, Uganda, or other CFC member countries. USA is not a member country, but its operations are in CFC member countries. In principle, you are eligible for CFC financing. Now, in section 1.3, which is the final section of this part, calls you to write a short, and I emphasize the word short, summary of your financing objectives. This means that we want to know what do you want to do, what do you want to achieve with the funds you are requesting from the CFC. Let's move to the next slide, please, which is chapter number 2 of the application form. And this one concerns, in general, the type of financing you're able to request from the CFC. Now, before I move on in depth on every and each financing instrument that the CFC can offer to you, let me first introduce you a couple of rules or information that you need to know before you apply. So, the first rule we have here in the CFC is that the CFC share of financing does not exceed 50%. That means that CFC funds should at least be matched with other sources of funds. Now, this could be other loans that you might have. For example, you may have loans from local banks or international organizations or other development finance institutions. But it could be also equity investments that either you have provided in your company or others to your company. It could be also retained earnings from the future. So let me give you a few examples here because we received quite a few questions on that. Let's say, for example, you're a company that has some working capital loans from local banks in your country, and you require a bigger amount now to upscale your operations. Are you eligible for CFC financing? Yes, you are. Why? Because the existing financing lines could match the CFC financing. But also, let's say you are a company that does not have any other loans at the moment. You could say, for example, that you're requesting CFC financing and you will be matching the CFC financing with retained earnings in the future. So basically, the profits of the future will be matching the CFC financing. So here the possibilities are quite broad. I would advise you to think creatively. And if you have any consideration on this regard, please do not let it stop you from applying for CFC financing and ask us. Ask us directly and we will answer to you. Let's go now to the, not the next one. Sorry. Now, the second previous slide, please. Yes, perfect. So the second information that you might want to know is concerns the duration of our loans. So in principle, the CFC enters only into long-term partnerships agreements, which means that in the end of the day, we will be signing with you a framework agreement for at least 3 years and most usually for 5 years. Now, this concerns also our short term financing tools. For example, our working capital facilities or trade finance facilities, which are typically 12 to up to 18 months, but they're annually renewable for up to 5 years. So, as you understand, it's quite a long perspective that the CFC will be taking in each case. Now, one thing, the third rule we have here in the CFC, financing from other sources must be shown in the financial projections. And assets that are not shown in financial statements are not accepted as co-financing. Remember the first rule we had that the CFC funding should be matched with other sources? The rule here is that we need to be able to see it in your financial statements. The final information, probably it's the question that everybody would like to ask, concerns the interest rate. How much interest rate is the CFC charging? Now, in CFC, we have a very transparent way of calculating our interest rates. So what we do, we take into consideration the country credit rating plus a company specific risk premium minus an impact premium. Now, what does this formula means in practice? In practice, this means that we are always cheaper than the local financial institutions, and we tend to be on the cheaper, the lower side among other development financial institutions or impact investors in the world. Now, in our current portfolio, which concerns many different countries, many different value chains, and also many different types of companies, the current range is between 6% and goes up to 12%. Now, you have to imagine that the higher the interest rate, the higher the risk of the value that we're working with. But in principle, interest rates is not a barrier for working with the CFC. We always try to tailor made our offering in cases that have high impact and high developmental reference for for our member countries. Now, let's go to the next slide, please. So the next slide is actually concerns the actual financial instrument that the CFC can offer to you. Just remember, those are the ideal types of our instruments. In any case, we always try to have an individual offering. We always try to tailor made our offer to our investees so that we can accommodate their needs. We start with trade finance. Trade finance, this is basically short-term financing for the execution of specific client orders. Most of businessmen and entrepreneurs should be relatively familiar with that, especially those in export activities. Now, trade finance could range from disbursements against shipping documents, but it could be that the disbursement happens already at the time when a company needs to go out there and source the raw materials from their farmers. Now, what is important here to note is that trade finance, as I said earlier, is linked with specific purchase orders. So, in the end of the day, we will ask you about who are those clients and with which clients would you like to connect this type of financing. Why? Because they will need to sign a tripartite repayment instruction, which will ensure that the repayment of the CFC will come from your buyer to the CFC, and of course, any profits will streamline from the CFC to you. Now, the big advantage of trade finance facilities is that in principle, we do not require any other type of collateral apart from this purchase order or purchase orders. Now, one question while you will be writing the application form, you will be asking yourself, I don't know who will be my clients in 1 year from now or 6 months from now. This is understandable. We know that. We don't need specific names. If you have them, you're welcome to include them. But if you don't, show us that you already working with specific clients. So we can know that you are familiar with this type of work. Trade finance is particularly relevant for advanced value chains, for example, coffee, cocoa, soy, vanilla, grains. There are several ones there. This is the most important ones, but yeah, possibilities are endless again here. Now, ticket sizes, as in most of our financing tools, range from 300,000 up to 2 million. This could be USD, but it could be also Euro. That's up to you. And for trade finance, the tenure is 12 months, but again, renewable for up to 5 years. Now, another more flexible, untied short-term financing tool that we have in CFC is our working capital facilities, where CFC basically exercises less control of the cash flow of a company. But in this case, what we would require is a stronger collateral. This could be a pledge of on your inventory, a pledge on receivables. It could be a collateral management facility that we will be working with, or it could be a corporate guarantee provided by a third party, or even from your country. The rule of thumb here is that the longer the cash cycle of the company, the longer the repayment period, the more securities we will likely ask for you. In principle, working capital facilities are relatively very flexible, so there are different ways of structuring. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. The third one in this slide, product of the CFC, it's term loans. Now, term loans is basically most of you are familiar with. It's the classic product for capex investment. Imagine here the construction of a factory, the purchase of machinery or other equipment. So for capex, we offer a tenure of 5 years, up to 5 years. Sometimes we also include plus up to 2 year grace period for this kind of loans, and the ticket sizes are the same, again from 300,000 up to 2 million. Now, one thing that I should note, term loans, apart from CAPEX, they could be used for the financing of microfinance institutions and other types of financial institutions. So if you are interested in receiving financing from the CFC to support your microfinance enterprise or your financial institution, you're welcome to apply in CFC, and this is one of the instruments we have for you available. Now, let's go to the next slide, please. And we are not yet there. Yeah, equity investments are part of the CFC mandate. Now, to be completely honest to you, at the moment, we do not provide equity investments directly to companies. Why? Unfortunately, we do not have the capacity to monitor a large equity portfolio. What we do, though, is equity investments to other impact investment funds. Now, when I say other impact investment funds, I mean funds that have a riskier profile than the CFC. Imagine here funds that provide loans or have a portfolio of companies in primary agriculture, in very remote areas, very concessional loans, very risky activities. So this is types of financing that we can consider, and we do it relatively often. So if you are an impact investor or a fund out there, uh, please be welcome to apply for this one. Now, the next one is our development impact bond, which is actually one of our recent innovations, as Andre said earlier. And as he said, we are one of the first actors in the world that apply this type of facilities in the commodity sector. Now, what is the development impact bond, or simply DEEP, as we say? Uh, DEEPs are outcomes based financing. And when we talk about outcomes, we mean real, tangible, and measurable impact on the ground. This instrument was particularly designed to unlock financing, especially for actors such as NGOs, international organizations, but also private sector actors that have an impact project at hand. For example, a technical assistance project. They have donors in place, but those donors are not likely to provide them with pre financing. They are waiting for you to achieve some targets. What the CFC can do in that case is actually provide the pre-financing for this project and get repaid later by the donor itself. This is quite interesting one structure, and also in a sense transfer the risk from the donor to the CFC. So if you are out there for fundraising reason and you have donors in your mind and you have an interesting project, please reach out to us. We would love to talk with you about developing something like that. Okay, let's go to the next slide. which should be our last instrument, the fast track loans. So those type of loans concern amounts from 50,000 USD to up to 300,000, and they were designed during the COVID period, where many companies were required emergency liquidity. Not only companies, also organizations of other types. Now, traditionally, this one is one of the most competitive products of the CFC because they serve really small ticket sizes. So we reserve it for highly innovative and highly impactful and with high additionality projects for the CFC. Now, who can apply for this one? This could take the form of a of a returnable grant or a loan for an international organization, a public agency, an NGO, or other relevant actors with high impact projects. But also, let's say you are a private sector actor, you are a small company and you cannot ask for 1 million trade finance or 300,000. What you can do would you could apply for this facility for ticket sizes again up to 300,000. For instance, if you require the trade finance loan that's under the 300,000 benchmark we discussed earlier, you could use this facility. The big advantage of fast track loans is that actually takes a shorter time for us to approve. So this is a good benefit for you. Let's go to the next slide, and we go now to the section of the application form called management and operations. Now, starting with section 3.1, what we want you to do here is basically provide us the names of the people managing your company or organization. Who are the key people managing and running your everyday in everyday your company, and what is their specific role or job title? Now you can do that either by doing it by text, or you could simply provide a simple graph, an org chart, or something relevant. Also remember that if you have a board of directors, or if you have other committees, a nomination committee, remuneration committee, or whatever, you can add that in that chart, so we can know exactly how your corporate governance structure works. In addition to that, we also want you to provide us with information about who are the shareholders of the company and how is ownership of the company divided between shareholders. Now, important information that you have to include is your company a holding company that owns other companies, or is your company owned by other companies, or is it part of a bigger or larger group, a conglomerate? Again, those type of information you can provide them by text or by simply providing a table or an org chart describing the shareholder ownership structure. In chapter 3.2, current business model, what we need here is a very high level description of what your company or organization does. So here, because it's an important part of the application, assume that we know nothing about you and nothing about the value chain that you are operating in. Now, in principle, you are the expert in your commodity, in your line of work. So please start from the basics. Describe us your business model and how it works. Information that you can include here is, for example, the type of products that you produce or trade, or services, the type of raw materials that you source from farmers, and what kind of processing activities are you undertaking. What is your processing capacity? How many employees you have? Also, please explain to us who are your end clients, in which countries you export, if you do so, of course. Now, the key here is to include numbers. So you can include numbers such as volume sourced per year in metric tons. You can include numbers of farmers that you're working with, processing capacity volumes, and other relevant numbers. This helps us to understand your business model better. Let's go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So the next slide here concerns market opportunity. So what do we do here? Section 4.1, market position. What we want you to do is basically describe us the market and the environment where your company operates in and how your company fits into that market. So in 4.1 section, what you have to do is basically explain us the basic characteristic of the market, both at a local level but also at an international level. Think information such as, is it a very competitive market that you're working with? Are there many companies doing the same thing as you? Or are you the only one offering the specific product or service in your country, your region, or even internationally? Other things that you might want to include here is the price mechanism. So how does the price mechanism works in your sector? Is it a spot market or is it based on long-term agreements? Is it a very competitive market in terms of prices? Is it very volatile? Also, please explain in details that the products you offer and describe to us your main competitors. We want to see where you fit in your market. So you could include a number of your competitors that you are aware of course. And if you have informations about their volumes or market shares, feel free to include those information also. Now, in the next section 4.2, this is where you showcase your business model. So feel free to think creatively. There's a huge list of possibilities of what you can include here. I will give you a few examples. For example, you can add here, do you have a niche product or a very high quality product that differentiates you from other competitors? Do you have a unique selling proposition relative to your competitors? Also, think things like, is there a government policy that is very beneficial for your business model? Maybe, for example, there is a government subsidy for your activities, or maybe your country has a free trade agreement with another country that helps you in your exports. Also, one important information that you can include is certifications. If you are organic certified, fair trade, Rainforest Alliance, BRC certified, please include those information there. It's really important. It makes you stand out, let's say. Now, finally, don't forget in this part to discuss about your sourcing strategy. How do you source your raw materials from farmers? What we need to know is that you're working the way you're working with smallholder farmers, or if maybe you're working with aggregators, or maybe you're working on your own farms. Those are very important information for us to understand how your supply chain works, and also tailor made our loans to you. But also, this is where we find the social impact that the CFC is looking for, the impact on farmers. Now, the last section, obstacles. Every company faces some obstacles. Just here, you need to write down a few of those, the problems that you're facing, the constraints you're facing, for us to understand and adapt to your needs. Think, for example, internal shortcomings. Maybe it's not easy to find relevant employees in your country. Maybe a specific type of employees is very difficult to find in your country. Other things that you might consider here is transport risks, processing risks, or even risks in your sourcing line. Let's go to the next slide, please. We can go relatively fast on this one because chapter 5 is actually a reflection of the previous chapter. So what we need here is to you to think, how will your company look after you receive CFC financing? So starting with 5.1 proposed business model, we want to know if there will be any changes in your business after receiving CFC financing. Will you be changing, for example, your business strategy? Are you going to introduce new products? And also, in chapter 5.2, are you going to increase the number of your clients, or are you going to just increase the volumes that you are selling to existing clients? Are you going to expand your sales to a new market or new geographies? Those are relevant here. In supply, you can describe to us what the impact of CFC financing will have in your supply line. So, for instance, are you going to onboard more farmers in your sourcing network, or are you going to just source higher volumes from your existing farmers? Now, innovation, sorry, I forgot 5.4, production process is where you discuss about how will CFC financing will affect your processing capacity. Will you be able to produce more products or better or higher quality products? So, or maybe different products. This is what we're looking for here. And the final one, 5.5, is actually innovation. Now, innovation means different things for different people. In the CFC, we have a relatively holistic attitude towards innovation. So, it could be a new technology that you are introducing or using in your country or internationally, but it could be also a business model, a new business model that has not been tested in your country. You can think other innovative projects that you might work there. For example, carbon credit creation, agroforestry, smart agriculture, projects with food security components, geomapping, innovative financial services for farmers. Again, the possibilities here are endless. So I invite you to think creatively and see the innovative aspect of your work. Let's go to the next slide. And I will pass this one to my colleague Matthias.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, so on the impact section of the application form, so this, as my colleagues mentioned, the CFC is an impact investor, so impact is in our DNA, and we are therefore accountable, let's say, for the impacts of the investments we choose to make. This is why we have section 6 in the application form to really determine the potential impacts of the investments we make. And we do this across, let's say, 6 core sustainable development goals. These are the ones that are the most important to the CFC. And we also want to ensure that our investments are really impacting the main groups of people that the CFC aims to impact. As my colleagues previously mentioned, these are mostly smallholder farmers, but also other poor actors across commodity value chains. So on the actual parts of the application form, in the first subsection, we simply ask you to summarize how you would use the CFC's money to bring about positive impact. This is obviously through innovation and additionality. And here we ask you to highlight how you do this sustainably. In the second section, we go into the actual impacts you may have on on the main sustainable development goals we focus on. We have 6 SDGs that we focus on. So these are SDG 1, no poverty, SDG 2, zero hunger, SDG 5, gender equality, SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, SDG 10, reduced inequalities, and SDG 13, climate action. If you look on our website, you'll find more information on these SDGs and why they're important to us. We also welcome impacts across other SDGs as long as you make it clear how you're impacting these SDGs. But please do keep in mind that we prioritize the 6 SDGs that I just mentioned. And in this section, we ask you to provide specific impact indicators and really summarize the values that you expect for them to in the future with our financing. Um, a clear example of an impact indicator could be the number of smallholder farmers that you're working with. And please do not worry if you don't know which impact indicators to use. We also provide an Excel document showing the impact indicators that we recommend you use. And we also ask you to fill in this Excel sheet, but I will talk a bit more about this in a little bit. In the third subsection, we then ask you to describe your end beneficiaries. So yeah, those we are impacting in terms of their poverty level. These could be smallholder farmers, migrant workers, and so forth. This is, of course, in your specific context, and some things that you would want to maybe consider including are the poverty line, let's say in your target country, or yeah, for where your end beneficiaries are based, the income distribution data, average GDP per capita, and income inequality score, and other pertinent income data as well. And lastly, in the fourth subsection, we ask you to describe key social and environmental risks related to your operations, or the sector that you operate in. And we also ask you to clearly explain how you're planning to manage or mitigate these. Some potential examples of this might be, let's say, poor working conditions or use of hazardous substances. Here, it's very important that you make this clear because we will be using a social and environmental risk management system during our due diligence. So we will use this system to assess your social and environmental risks, uh, and of course, your mitigation and policies and strategies. So this system we developed with the ILO, with the International Labor Organization, and it follows very strict industry standards. So the clearer you can be here, of course, the better. And next slide, please. Yes, and now going back to the impact indicators that I had mentioned to you, we have an Excel file that we share to you, that is shared to you as an attachment to the application form. In this Excel file, you will find the impact indicator sheet that we ask you to fill in. And in this sheet, you will find the impact indicators we recommend across our 6 main SDGs. We ask you to fill in these impact indicators with baseline values, so for values in your current period, and simply future values that you expect to have with the help of our CFC financing. And the one thing you need to know about these impact indicators is that they are based on the impact reporting and investment standards, so IRS plus list of indicators. So this is simply a reporting guideline that we use, which provides a list of indicators that are already defined and that we can use to compare impacts across our portfolio. So yeah, by using these indicators and by reporting them back to us, we can then determine whether your proposed impact really matches us, is what we're looking for, if it aligns with our mission and with our impact thesis. So I think this covers everything that has to do with impact, and we can move on.
Yeah, back to me then. So let's take it the fastest part of the application form. So please remember that while will you be doing your application form, you have to do two things. One, submit the Word application that we are going through now, but also the Excel sheet that Matthias mentioned, where you put your historical financials and also your projections, but also the impact indicators. Now, going back to the application form, and this is why it's relevant, in chapter 7, what we need you to tell us is basically the story behind the numbers. So you see here we have information such as historical financial statements, financial projections. What we need is basically the story. We don't need an analysis. We need what's behind your growth. For example, you're reporting a specific level of growth. What is the reason for that? Or if you expect a high growth in the future, uh, what is the reason for that? Higher demand, higher prices. Uh, Give us the story behind that so that we can understand your expectation and also your assumptions in your business model. Now, the most important part of this section is actually sources of funding and additionality for CFC. So what we ask you here to do is actually provide us with a list of all your existing financiers, the loans you have undertaken, including the interest rate that you're paying, the the interest rate you are paying, the tenure, the maturity date, and also the currency that you are using. Now, you will be asking, Chris, why are you asking this information? Is it because you want to bargain with us for the interest rate in the future? No. What we want here is to understand is the additionality that the CFC can find. So what can we offer to you better? So please be transparent here, include those information in a simple list, in a simple table, and we will try our best to tailor our offer to you. The final one, 7.4, main risks and mitigants. Basically, a list of the main risks that you have identified for the execution of your future projects. You can see, for example, risks such as currency risk, which is very common. If you're the currency you have in your country is very fluctuating, you can include that. Maybe there are regulatory risks. For example, maybe there's very tight regulations in your export activities. It could be processing risks. Maybe, for example, machinery is very difficult to find in your country. Also, it could be transport risk, as we mentioned earlier in obstacles. Maybe there's not enough freights, or freights are very expensive. Containers are very expensive. Information like that for us to understand what will be the main risks in your case. Let's go to the next slide. And that's just the model, like what you will have to submit. It's a very simple P&L. I think most of entrepreneurs should be familiar with that. You see historical and projections here. Let's go to the next slide. A very simple also balance sheet. I should mention here that we have a model also for financial institutions, so you can use that one if you are an MFI or a financial institution. And also, if you are an NGO or another type of international organization, you can customize a little the Excel sheet that we provide, or ask us how to do it. Let's go to the next one. Finally, the supporting document list. I would advise you to start and end all your application by checking the list. So we have a few required mandatory documents. One is the audited financial statements for the latest 3 financial years. If you don't have audited financial statements, but you have other types of financial statements, please provide them and we will take a look for sure. Don't forget the Excel sheet that we discussed about the financial projections plus the impact indicators, and also your company's registration documents and the ownership structure that we discussed earlier. Now, if you have any other type of information or documents that you think that are relevant for us to understand your business case, please feel free to attach them and send it to us. We will take a look. For example, maybe you have a business plan there in place. Maybe you have a presentation, a pitch deck for investors. Maybe, for example, you have available the resumes of your employees. Please feel free to attach them and we'll take a look. Now let's go to the next one. Yeah, that's the chapter 9, just a few information about who you are. Let's go to the next slide. And also some affirmations so that we know that the person that is submitting the application is relevant to the organization that requires the financing. So that's it, our application form. I hope you understood how you can submit your application, how to write the application. Of course, we cannot cover everything today. So if you have any questions, if you have any problems, something you didn't understand, please feel free to reach out to us directly. So we have an email here. We tend to answer to all emails that we receive and all questions that we receive. And be sure that at some point an investment manager will reach out to you to answer your question. Now, we don't have a lot of time, but maybe, Andre, we can keep 2 minutes just for a couple of questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Chris, Matthias. some of us need to proceed to our next meetings, so I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to take questions in the meantime. But there is a question on the slides. So all the registered email addresses, when you were joining, you provided your email addresses. So we will share the presentation to all registered email addresses. Also, the recording of this webinar will be placed on our website, so you can get the recording there and review if anything was not very clear. Also, we apologize that it has to be short. The email address currently on the screen in front of you, opencall@commonfund.org. Please do not hesitate to email this address. It's a real email address. There is somebody watching it, so we aim to reply to all the questions that we receive on this email address. So with that, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. Please sign up to our LinkedIn and Facebook accounts on social media, where we will be posting updates and further information. I believe there will be another webinar held in a month or two to touch on more questions. And I would like to thank my colleagues and to wish everybody a very nice rest of the day. Thank you so much. The webinar is therefore concluded, and it is safe to disconnect. Thank you.